There's something oddly comforting about a lip balm. That soft glide across dry lips, the gentle shine that makes you feel instantly put together even without a full face of makeup. It's the small pocket-sized act of care that sits quietly beside your toothbrush in your bag or on your desk. For many, it's the very first beauty habit they ever learned, a tiny ritual that promises protection, softness, and a bit of confidence. But what if that little stick isn't so innocent? Some balms we trust every single day hide ingredients that can strip moisture, trigger allergies, or even expose our lips to harmful compounds linked to irritation and long-term sensitivity. The very thing meant to soothe might over time make your lips need it more. In this video, we're breaking down 5 lip balms that could be doing more harm than good. And don't worry, stay till the end, because there are 2 brands that truly get it right. Number 1. Carmex. It starts with a feeling we all know, that soft, minty tingle right after you put on your lip balm. For many of us, that yellow cap tube has been there for decades. It lived in our backpacks in high school, rolled under car seats, and survived winters that cracked every inch of our skin. There's a comfort to it, like a trusted ritual passed down from parents, from friends, from every checkout counter impulse we ever had. Carmex has always promised relief. The smell alone is almost nostalgic, sharp, clean, medicinal, like it must be working. But here's where the illusion begins to crack. If you've ever felt your lips go dry again only minutes later, you're not alone. Millions of users report the same cycle: soothe, sting, reapply. The balm feels like it helps until it doesn't. The truth hiding beneath that yellow label is less about comfort and more about chemistry. Let's look closer. The core ingredients inside classic Carmex read like a time capsule of early 20th century formulation: camphor, menthol, phenol, salicylic acid, and flavor suspended in white petrolatum and lanolin. Each of those first 4 actives is a mild irritant. They create that brief cooling or numbing sensation by slightly inflaming the top layer of skin. Dermatologists call them counter-irritants. They distract the nerves from pain, but they don't fix the cause. In fact, the American Academy of Dermatology lists camphor, menthol, and phenol among ingredients to avoid when your lips are already damaged or peeling. The reason is simple: broken skin absorbs more, reacts faster, and heals slower. What happens next is a subtle feedback loop. The balm soothes by tingling, the tingle fades, and the dryness returns stronger than before. You reach for it again, chasing that familiar comfort. It feels good for a minute, and that minute keeps you coming back. Over time, your lips can become dependent on the feeling rather than on genuine moisture. The balm that promised protection ends up perpetuating the need for itself. To be clear, Carmex isn't poisonous. There's no glass in the tube like old internet rumors once claimed. Snopes already debunked that years ago. And its manufacturer does use ingredients that meet safety standards. But safe doesn't always mean gentle. The same cooling oils and acids that once felt advanced in the 1930s haven't aged as gracefully as the brand's reputation. In 2017, a French consumer watchdog tested 20 popular balms and found traces of mineral oil, hydrocarbons, MOSH compounds in several, including Carmex. They're not illegal, but scientists caution that certain forms can accumulate in the body over time. It's another quiet reminder that the formulas we've known for generations aren't always the ones best suited for modern health awareness. So maybe the real story of Carmex isn't about danger. It's about trust and how easy it is to keep repeating a habit that once worked without asking if it still does. We reach for what's familiar because familiarity feels safe. But safety deserves evidence, not nostalgia. As we move on, keep this thought in mind: if one of the oldest and most beloved balms on the shelf can hide so many contradictions, what about the others sitting right next to it? Number 2. Chapstick Classic Medicated. Sometimes the truth hides in plain sight, not in marketing slogans, but in a small white rectangle labeled drug facts. The classic medicated chapstick doesn't shout for attention. There's no sparkle, no influencer claim, no flavor of the week. Just a plain black tube with a promise that's been printed the same way for generations. But inside that simplicity lies something most of us never bother to question. Let's take a look. Under the label, it reads like a quiet confession: camphor 1%, menthol 0.6, phenol 0.5, petrolatum 41. Those numbers look clinical, almost reassuring. But to dermatologists, they tell a different story. Camphor, menthol, and phenol are mild anesthetics. They numb pain by irritating the skin just enough to trigger a cooling sensation. It's the chemical version of putting ice on a burn, momentary relief, not true repair. The American Academy of Dermatology repeatedly advises avoiding those compounds on cracked or chapped lips, because the more damage the surface, the deeper those actives can penetrate, and the longer it takes to heal. The irony Chapstick medicated is technically classified as an over-the-counter drug. That means it follows FDA labeling laws, yet sits in the same aisle as cosmetics, blending trust and familiarity into one compact tube. It's medicine that markets like makeup, and for decades that dual identity has kept it safe from deeper scrutiny. If you trace the product's evolution, you'll see a pattern of perfect consistency, and that's not necessarily praise. Formulas that once fit the standards of the 1950s haven't evolved much. Back then, the cool tingle was a badge of efficacy. Today, we know better. What feels like comfort is often a mild inflammatory response, convincing your nerves that something is happening. It's a sensory illusion built on chemistry and expectation. Ask any dermatologist why these formulas survive, and you'll get the same quiet answer: people like to feel it working. That's the invisible motive behind Chapstick's endurance. The brand's word choice, medicated, taps into that old medical authority. It sounds trustworthy, clinical, even sterile. But the label never actually says healing. It simply lists actives that make your lips react. And when comfort becomes reaction, the line between help and harm blurs faster than you think. To its credit, Chapstick isn't hiding anything. Everything is printed clearly in black and white, but transparency without understanding can still be dangerous. It's a bit like a contract written in plain language that no one bothers to read because the outcome feels predictable. You buy, you apply, you feel better, and you move on. Until one day you notice that your lips never truly recover. The cycle repeats, subtle but relentless. This isn't a scandal, and it isn't an accusation. It's a habit born from history, a product of an era when we measured trust by the sensation of coolness. Chapstick medicated kept that promise alive because we never stopped to challenge it. So before you reach for that simple black tube again, maybe pause for a second, flip it over. Read those 3 lines on the label. They've been telling the truth all along, we just never thought to listen. Number 3. Blistex Lip Medex. Cooling, refreshing, instant relief. The kind of words that roll off the tongue like a promise. You've seen them everywhere, on commercials, on tubes stacked neatly by cash registers, and in the hands of people who swear by that unmistakable tingle. Blistex built its reputation on that very feeling, that deep, minty buzz that convinces your brain something magical is happening. At first it feels incredible. Cold air meets soft lips. The sting sharpens, then fades into comfort. It's satisfying, sensory, even addictive in its precision. No wonder it sells. The moment you apply it, you feel something. And that feeling, more than the formula, is the product. Let's rewind the chemistry for a second. The cooling effect in Blistex Lip Medex comes from the same familiar trio we've seen before: camphor, menthol, and phenol. They're anesthetics agents that numb pain by irritating the surface of the skin. Dermatologists call this counter-irritation, a trick that replaces discomfort with a different type of stimulus. In other words, your lips don't actually become healthier. They just get distracted. The company never lied about it. The packaging literally says medicated lip balm. The sensation is part of the brand's DNA. The problem is that the human mind tends to confuse sensation with improvement. We like to feel things working. A product that burns, cools, or tingles feels more active than one that just sits quietly. Psychologists call this the action bias, our tendency to equate intensity with effectiveness. It's why we trust fizzing tablets, tingling shampoos, and yes, cooling balms. But biology doesn't always agree with marketing. Menthol and phenol cause mild inflammation. They can dehydrate the skin barrier, prompting more dryness over time. The very symptom that sends you reaching for another coat of balm is the one being subtly maintained by its ingredients. You're not healing. You're managing one tingle at a time. Online reviews tell the same story in human language. Works fast, but I have to keep reapplying. Feels great, but my lips crack again by afternoon. That repetition isn't a coincidence. It's the feedback loop of comfort. The cooling shock tricks the brain into thinking the lips are moisturized, when in reality, they're reacting to irritation. It's a perfect business model, a product that creates the very condition it's meant to fix. Still, it's hard to call Blistex malicious. Their formula has been consistent for decades, their labels clear, their following loyal. The real issue isn't deception, it's perception. We bought into the idea that feeling something means getting better. Under a microscope, that tingle looks less like healing and more like microinflammation. Cells contract, moisture evaporates, nerves flare. Yet to us, it feels alive, proof that we're doing the right thing. That's the brilliance of the illusion. It doesn't fool your logic, it fools your senses. Blistex didn't invent the trick. It simply perfected it, turning chemistry into theater. The lips tingle, the mind relaxes, and the wallet opens again. Because let's face it, silence feels wrong. We crave reaction, even when the reaction hurts. And if this one sells you sensation as proof, wait until you meet the next contender, a lip balm that hides behind a medical name and a pastel smile. That's where the illusion takes on a whole new face. Number 4. Maybelline Baby Lips Dr. Rescue. It looks harmless. Soft pastel tube, tiny medical crosswords like rescue and menthol comfort written in calm lettering. It's the kind of balm you'd toss into your purse without a thought, cute, clean, and trustworthy. A balm that doesn't shout, it smiles. For many, it feels like the grown-up version of care part makeup, part medicine. Maybelline calls it Dr. Rescue, as if a dermatologist and a designer met halfway and decided healing could be beautiful. It promises to cool, soothe, and visibly renew dry lips. Everything about it feels safe, sensible, modern. But purity has always been the best disguise. Because behind that gentle design lies the same old trick, only this time dressed in mint and white instead of warning red. The secret sits right there on the label, menthol 0.5% eucalyptus oil fragrance with traces of limonene and linalool. Each of them capable of irritation on cracked skin. None of them new. Dermatologists have said it for years: when lips are damaged, menthol cools by inflaming the surface nerves. Eucalyptus oil dries. Fragrance allergens make things worse. Yet somehow when these ingredients appear inside a pink cap tube, they stop looking risky and start looking adorable. That's the illusion. The packaging feels nurturing, so we let our guard down. The pastel color palette, the soft typography, the tiny doctor prefix, they whisper, "Trust me," louder than any bold warning ever could. It doesn't market power like Carmex or authority like Chapstick. It sells gentleness. And gentleness, as it turns out, sells best of all. Because it's not easy to question something that looks this polite. We've been conditioned to see feminine design as safe design, lighter colors, round edges, smaller fonts, sweeter names. They trigger calm before we even read a single ingredient. That's marketing psychology at its quietest and most effective. The science may sting, but the packaging hugs. So what happens when you apply it? The same cycle as before: a mild tingle, a fleeting cool, a soft sheen that fades faster than the comfort it promised. The lips feel better for a few minutes, then reach again for the balm. Only this time, the cycle hides behind a smile. And maybe that's the point. Because in a market full of harsh claims and clinical tubes, Maybelline found a middle ground medicine that doesn't look like medicine. It's a clever kind of reassurance, one that cools not just your lips, but your suspicion. To be fair, it's not deception, it's design. Every pastel shade, every friendly word, every menthol breath of relief is a choice that works because we crave softness more than truth. Maybe the lesson here isn't about chemicals or menthol or the endless debate over fragrance. Maybe it's about comfort itself, how easily it blinds us. Because when danger wears pink, we don't see danger, we see care. Dr. Rescue cools, it soothes, it photographs beautifully, but healing isn't always what looks gentle. Sometimes real healing begins when the illusion melts away. And if this generation of balms hides its flaws under pastels and promises the next one hides them under nostalgia, sweet scents, and childhood smiles that make the truth even harder to question. That's where we're heading next. Number 5. Lip Smacker. Shiny pink tubes clinking together in backpack soda flavors lined up like collectibles, the scent of bubblegum and strawberry sugar floating through the air. For many of us, Lip Smacker wasn't just a lip balm, it was the beginning. The first thing we borrowed from a friend, the first product that made us feel a little older, a little prettier. Childhood smelled like cotton candy, tasted like Dr. Pepper, and fit right inside your pencil case. There was something innocent about it. It didn't matter what was inside. What mattered was which flavor you had. Lip Smacker wasn't about dryness or hydration or health. It was about identity, the power to pick your favorite and show it off. It made growing up feel safe, even sweet. But nostalgia has a strange way of softening the truth, because when you peel back the shimmer, the ingredients tell a story that doesn't age as well as the memories. Flavor, fragrance, colorants, benzyl benzoate, limonene, linalool, saccharin, sucralose. They sound harmless enough, but dermatologists group them among the most common causes of contact cheilitis, the quiet inflammation that makes lips peel, sting, and crave more balm. The irony. The sweeter the smell, the higher the risk. Lip Smacker never hid it. Every label lists its playful flavors proudly. And maybe that's what makes this story sting in its own quiet way. It was never deceit, only innocence. Back then, we didn't read ingredients. We read moods. Vanilla meant calm, watermelon meant summer, Dr. Pepper meant cool. Each scent was a memory, and every memory came with a cost we didn't know we were paying. It's strange, isn't it? How something that once felt so pure can in hindsight feel careless. But maybe that's not betrayal, maybe that's just growth. We didn't know what allergens were or how fragrance could irritate the skin barrier. We didn't have dermatology, TikToks, or ingredient databases. All we had was the joy of choice, a sugar-coated rite of passage. The past doesn't lie, it just doesn't read the label. Lip Smacker didn't change much over the years. We did. What we once called flavor, we now call fragrance. What we called shine, we now call sensitivity. And what we called harmless fun, we now understand as the first step in learning how to care. So no, this isn't a story about a bad balm. It's about a product that stayed the same while the world around it learned a new language of awareness. Maybe innocence has an expiration date printed in tiny letters on the back of every tube, and yet that realization isn't sad. It's liberating, because it means we can outgrow what no longer serves us. We can keep the sweetness of the memory and still choose something wiser for tomorrow. Which brings us to the other side of this story, the quiet survivors. The brands that didn't chase flavors or illusions, but trusted simplicity to do the talking. The ones that heal without a slogan, that protect without a performance. Because after all these years, maybe that's what real care looks like, not sugar or shine, but silence that actually works. Number 6, Vaseline Lip Therapy. No fragrance, no sparkle, no slogans. Just a small, unassuming tin that's been sitting quietly on shelves for more than 100 years. You twist it open, and there's no surprise waiting inside, just that same soft glow, that same waxy calm. It doesn't promise anything. It doesn't have to. For generations, Vaseline has existed like background music, never the star, but always there when you needed it most. The label hasn't changed much. The formula hasn't either. And maybe that's the point. In a marketplace built on reinvention, Vaseline survived by staying still. It's not beautiful, it's not fancy, but it is honest. While every other balm tried to reinvent what comfort should feel like, adding shimmer, adding flavor, adding cooling relief, Vaseline chose to do nothing more than protect. One ingredient, one purpose. White petrolatum triple, refined to USP grade purity. No menthol to tingle, no alcohol to sting, no color, no scent. Just a thin, transparent layer that keeps the world from taking too much from your skin. That's not glamour. That's geometry, a seal so complete it traps moisture inside, giving your lips time to heal themselves. Dermatologists have said it for decades. Vaseline doesn't heal, it helps the body heal. That quiet difference is why it's still listed among the most recommended remedies for chapped lips, burns, and dry skin. There's a kind of humility in that. It doesn't ask for attention, it earns it. It doesn't fight for relevance, it never lost it. Maybe that's why Vaseline has lasted through wars, recessions, pandemics, and a century of rebranding. It wasn't made to perform under a camera. It was made to perform under real weather. Long before skincare routines were trending, it was sitting in bedside drawers and winter coat pockets, waiting for the moment someone reached for it without thinking. And yet that simplicity hides something profound, a quiet defiance against the culture of excess. In an age where everything needs to do more, Vaseline reminds us that doing less consistently might be the most powerful act of all. When you open that tin, there's no chemical sting, no fragrance rising, no artificial gloss. Just silence, the kind of silence that feels earned. You press your finger in it, melt slightly from the warmth of your skin, and when you glide it on, there's no drama, just relief. Maybe that's why it's one of the few products shared between generations. Your grandmother used it without question. Your parents did too. Maybe you do now almost out of instinct. It's passed down not as a trend, but as trust. That small blue tin is less a cosmetic, more a memory of reliability, a symbol of care that never needed attention to stay relevant. Because while other brands shout to prove their worth, Vaseline just keeps showing up. It doesn't claim to transform, it preserves. It doesn't excite, it endures. It's not built to impress you, it's built to stay. And maybe that's what true healing feels like, not fireworks, but stillness. A reminder that strength isn't always visible, that care isn't always loud. In a world obsessed with sensations, cooling, tingling, sparkling, Vaseline whispers a quieter truth. The best protection doesn't thrill you, it sustains you. No gimmicks, no flavor, no feverish claims. Just a formula that outlived every shortcut and still speaks in the language of patience. Because healing, real healing, doesn't need an audience. It just needs time and something that won't disappear halfway through the process. So if every product before this one told stories of noise, illusion, or nostalgia, Vaseline tells a different one about peace. about how silence itself can become the most faithful form of care. And yet, our story doesn't end in the past. Because while Vaseline proves that simplicity can endure, another name carries that philosophy into the future, using modern science to refine what gentle can truly mean. Number 7. Vanicream. After everything we've seen, it's easy to lose trust. Too many promises have melted under the microscope. Too many labels have whispered gentle while hiding something harsher underneath. But not every silence means deceit. Some products stay quiet because they've done the work, because they don't need to convince you with perfume or color or claim. They simply show up and stay. That's where Vanicream stands. Not as a miracle, not as a trend, but as a kind of discipline. It was never built for the beauty aisle. It began in clinics designed by pharmacists for patients with eczema, allergies, and chemical sensitivities. Its creators weren't chasing aesthetics, they were chasing absence, no fragrance, no dye, no parabens, no lanolin, no formaldehyde releasers. In a world where everything shouted, "Look at me," Vanicream dared to say, "You won't feel me at all." That's its entire philosophy: care through subtraction. The fewer irritants, the fewer surprises. The fewer sensations, the more control the skin regains. It doesn't tingle. It doesn't gloss. It doesn't even feel luxurious. It simply disappears. And that's the point. Because in dermatology, nothing can be the best feeling of all. When your skin stops burning, when it no longer itches or stings, when it simply feels normal again, that's when you realize what true care means. Vanicream doesn't sell beauty. It restores neutrality. And the science backs that simplicity. Every batch is tested for irritant potential, screened for allergens, reviewed by the National Eczema Association. Its formula focuses on barrier protection, pH-balanced, non-comedogenic, and deliberately uneventful. It's not made to surprise you. It's made to stop your skin from being surprised. In reviews and dermatology offices alike, one phrase repeats again and again: "It's the only thing that doesn't make my skin react." That's not a glamorous testimonial, it's a declaration of peace. Because for people with reactive or sensitive skin, "nothing happened" is the highest praise imaginable. And that's what sets Vanicream apart. Where others turned clean beauty into a design language, white packaging, green leaves, minimal text, Vanicream made it a medical standard. It doesn't borrow credibility from nature or nostalgia. It earns it through omission. In a way, it feels like the natural heir to Vaseline, built on the same foundation of restraint, but refined through science. If Vaseline was about protection, Vanicream is about prevention. If Vaseline was the quiet friend that waited in your drawer, Vanicream is the one that learned to speak softly in the language of chemistry. And maybe this is what modern care looks like: not more ingredients, but fewer that matter. Not louder branding, but clearer intention. Not instant transformation, but long-term tolerance. Because after years of products that numbed, burned, scented, and sparkled, we don't crave excitement anymore. We crave quiet that we can trust. And trust once lost isn't rebuilt through beauty, it's rebuilt through evidence. That's what Vanicream offers: evidence wrapped in empathy. It doesn't promise perfection. It promises permission for your skin to simply exist unbothered and at peace. And as this journey closes, that's where we end, not in outrage, not in nostalgia, but in calm. From the sticks that burn to the tins that healed to the creams that redefine silence, we've traveled through illusion, memory, and rediscovery. And what remains isn't cynicism. It's clarity. Because real care, the kind that lasts, doesn't ask to be noticed. It only asks to be trusted. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for watching, but for caring enough to question what you put on your body. That's something many people never do. You've learned that behind every shiny label, every cooling tingle, every soft shade of pink, there's a choice. And the more you know, the stronger that choice becomes. Because awareness isn't fear, it's power. Every small decision, every label you read, every product you rethink adds up to something bigger: control. Control over what touches your skin, your health, your peace of mind. So keep questioning, keep learning, and remember, real care doesn't start with the products on your shelf. It starts with the respect you give yourself. Stay curious, stay kind, and never forget you deserve better, and you have the power to choose it.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.